on the topic of ICE agents, we should talk about what it takes to be one. And the answer there actually might be not much. ICE is apparently hiring recruits before they submit basic paperwork or drug test results and without conducting the most cursory background check. That was the experience of a recruit who wrote a Slate article exposing some just absolutely horrifying issues with the agency's hiring process. And the recruit at the center of this story is Laura Jedeed, a freelance journalist who focuses on American conservative and far-right movements. And Jedeed, she went to the ICE Career Expo in Texas last August because she wanted to learn what it was like to apply to be an ICE agent. And while having no actual intent to join ICE, Jedeed thought, hey, my resume is pretty strong enough that maybe I can get my foot in the door to check out the whole recruiting process. She enlisted in the Army right out of college. She served 2 deployments in Afghanistan before then, working as a civilian analyst for a few years. Though notably, Jedeed intentionally left out any mention of her current occupation as a journalist. And she figured that that omission would prevent her from even making it through the initial review, because once the hiring managers did even a simple Google search, they'd find a whole host of articles where she's condemning Trump, his administration, and the right-wing shift of the country at large. But she even has a dossier on Antifa Watch, this right-wing website that says it tracks what it says are alleged members of a group that conservatives have branded as a domestic terrorist organization. So she goes to the expo, registers for an interview time slot, but when she gets there at 9 a.m., there's barely anyone there. There's no line to check or go through security, and the hallways and drug testing stations, they're nearly empty. There are only 6 people ahead of her for the interview, and even though the expo was held in a massive esports stadium, Jedeed said that there could have been more than 150 people in the event space during the entire visit. Though, I will say, another reporter said that over the course of the 2 days, 3,000 people attended the event. But again, at least while Jedeed was there, the stadium was pretty damn empty. And then when it comes time for her interview, it ends up being pretty surface level, where she's asked for basic identifying information, whether she has law enforcement or military experience, and her location preferences. She also explains the gap in her resume, where she omitted her current occupation, saying that she went to college part-time and was doing gig economy stuff, with then the interviewer telling her that ICE is prioritizing current law enforcement first and would look at her resume, and if they liked what they saw, she'd get an email with next steps. And so she leaves the interview going, okay, this is probably the end. There's no way they're gonna hire me once they Google my name. But still, she initially keeps a close eye on her inbox, but then after a few days, she's not as careful, and that's how she initially missed the email from ICE giving her a tentative job offer. And she says this email provided a series of steps that she had to take on a tight deadline. She had just 48 hours to log on to USA Jobs and fill out a declaration for federal employment, and 5 more days to return the forms attached to the email. In those forms, including driver's license information and affidavit that she never has been convicted for domestic violence, and a consent for a background check. And this is a key thing for what happens next, right? The instructions in the email explicitly stated, if you are declining the position, it is not necessary to complete the action items listed below. But because she didn't see the email, she already missed the deadline to do all those things. And so Jedeed assumes, okay, that's the natural end to this experiment, but then plot twist, it gets so much crazier. 3 weeks later, she gets another email that reads, thank you for confirming that you wish to continue with the hiring process, which of course is a surprise to her because she literally did not confirm that she wished to continue. But still, she goes, okay, well, let's try and move ahead. Let's take the pre-employment drug test that ICE requested just for shits and giggles. Right in there, thinking that, well, there's no way she's gonna pass because she had smoked pot 6 days before her test. And so she waits for that call saying, you failed your drug test. But after not hearing anything for 9 days, she decides, hey, let me go log on to USA Jobs and check the application to see if my drug test had come through. And that is when she learned that ICE had offered her a job, all without her even knowing or even submitting any of the paperwork they requested. No background check, no domestic violence affidavit, no clean drug test result, nothing. Boom, hired by ICE. And while the portal noted that pre-employment activities remained pending, it also showed that she had accepted a final job offer and listed her onboarding status as entered on duty, right, with the portal indicating that she had officially been entered on duty on September 30th, several days earlier, and supposedly the same day that ICE sent her the final offer that she had supposedly accepted. Now, notably here, Jedeed does acknowledge that maybe if she had accepted the job, they would have demanded her pre-employment paperwork, done some basic screening, and then fired her ASAP. But even then, she writes that the pending and upcoming task list suggested a very different outcome, right? Noting that on October 6th, a date 3 days in the future at this point, her physical fitness test had been initiated and both her medical and background checks had been completed. And so she wrote and wondered, was ICE seriously going to let me start training without finding out the first thing about me? And with that saying, I reached out to ICE for an explanation, but never heard back. But also, she never found out because ultimately she declined the job. And so overall, she said her experience should make everyone very concerned, right? Noting that maybe this was a computer glitch, maybe this was a one-of-a-kind situation, an outlier, but with that, arguing, given all the above, it seems far more likely that ICE is running an extremely leaky ship when it comes to recruitment. And adding that it's basically impossible to know for sure because there's just so little oversight of ICE and the agency conceals its agents' identities, right? And with all this, wondering if this agency missed the fact that she was an anti-ICE journalist who didn't even complete her paperwork, what other major things are they missing for everyone else? Asking how many convicted domestic abusers are being given guns and sent into other people's homes? How many people with ties to white supremacist organizations are indiscriminately adamantly targeting minorities on principle, regardless of immigration status? How many rapists and pedophiles are working in ICE detention centers with direct and unsupervised access to a population that will be neither believed nor missed? How are we to trust ICE's allegedly thorough investigations of the people they detain and deport when they can't even keep their HR paperwork straight? And adding, if ICE didn't screen her out, they also can't be expected to hire competent recruits. And with all this, she then specifically pointed to the killing of Renee Good. And so just a completely insane situation. And as far as how DHS has responded, they have now released a statement on X saying, "This is such a lazy lie. This individual was never offered a job at ICE," saying applicants may receive a tentative selection letter following their initial application and interview that is not a job offer. It just means they are invited to submit information for review, similar to any other applicant. But that appears to directly fly in the face of Jedeed literally sharing a screen recording of the portal where it says in multiple locations that she was sent a job offer, including one page that explicitly reads, "The final job offer has been sent out for response on the following September 30th, 2025. And Jedeed actually shared that screen recording well before DHS made their statement. So if anything, their response is the thing that seems lazy. Right? It lends itself to the idea that they don't actually know what the fuck is going on over there. And so, all of this, it's just a crazy situation. I'd love to know your thoughts, opinions, and reaction to everything. Of course, share to spread the word.